11, 29, 29, 30 seconds. Good morning. This is Jamal Hassan from the Voice Studio in Washington, D.C., USA. Welcome to my show. The voice is your voice. Today, as our title suggests, I'll be introducing to you an unique individual, not very common in Bangladesh. You know the title? Growing up with a Jewish background in the former East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. I'm introducing Mr. Joseph Jude Edward Barook from Toronto, Canada. Mr. Joseph Jude Edward Barook was born in Chattogram, Bangladesh. He did his primary and junior schooling in Khulna and Chattogram. From 1968 onward, he attended high school, college, and university in Chattogram. Joseph Jude Edward Barook is an accomplished architect with a diploma certification in civil, building, and architectural science and design, coupled with a bachelor's degree in commerce. Joseph Jude Edward Barook had been born with a strong Jewish background. His ancestors from paternal side were Baghdadi Jews. Mr. Barook assisted in architectural design of the Toronto Sky Dome, Meadowell Community Theatre in Mississauga, and many schools in Canada. Joseph Jude Edward Barook was deployed in Kabul, Afghanistan with the Canadian Armed Forces. He also served NATO Air Base in Kandahar, Afghanistan. He worked with the United Nations Office for Project Services in Kabul and worked with United Nations Support Office for AMISOM in Mogadishu, Somalia. Mr. Barook, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Today, I brought you just to tell your life story. Mr. Barook, you were born in Chattogram, then East Pakistan. So how your childhood days were spent in a predominantly Muslim majority country, Pakistan?
Well, going back to my father's time when my father was in Chittagong, his brother was there as well, his older brother Ezra, who had a business. But talking about my father, he actually, nobody knew of his Jewish background. And he kind of adopted the last name of Edward, because Baruch is a very Hebrew name, cannot pass off as any English or Canadian or any kind of other name besides Hebrew. So he adopted that the last name of Edward, and it just stayed on, and everybody knew him as a Christian. Only a few Catholic friends of his knew that he was Jewish, but they kept it to themselves. Growing up, we also never mentioned our real last name. We went with the name of Edward, last name of Edward. And it just stuck on, and that's how we lived. if we had kept the Baruch last name, definitely we would have been questioned and maybe persecuted. Because back in those days, Jews were never looked favorably because of the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Mr. Baruch, question is, there are many places in the then East Pakistan, but I understand your father settled in Chittagong or Chattogram in pre-partition days. What actually allowed him or led him to land in the place near the Bay of Bengal?
Well, my father actually, before partition, he worked in a company in Calcutta, and they had a branch office in Chittagong. And just before partition, my father was transferred. The company transferred him from Calcutta to the Chittagong office as a manager. The name of the company in Chittagong was called Standard Jute Baling. And then soon after that, my father's older brother, Ezra, moved to Chittagong, and he later moved to Chandragona, where he started his own business in sungrass. So that's how my father and his brother ended up in Chittagong.
That could be in the around the year 1930s, maybe, or 40s, early 40s.
It would have been in 1945, 46, somewhere around there. And then, of course, 1947 was the partition. And, at the time of partition, my father and his brother chose to stay in the then East Pakistan. One must remember also that the Muslim population of Pakistan did not like Jews and had a very hostile attitude toward them. So, my father just adopted the last name of Edward. So he was known as Raymond Edward. His brother was known as Eddie Edward.
So your father is, I understand, that from Iraqi Jewish heritage, but your mother was not from the Jewish heritage.
No.
Am I right?
Yes, my mother was Portuguese, and of course, her family came to India maybe around the 13th century, 14th century, and they lived in all parts of India. As a matter of fact, there is a street in Calcutta named after my mother's extended family. It's called Gomez Street, Gomez Street, and it's still there in Calcutta.
You grew up not only in Chattogram, but your childhood days, part of it, you spent in Khulna also. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I was born in 1956. By 1958, by that time, my father had left the jute industry. He went into shipping. And as a matter of fact, in the shipping industry, he became very knowledgeable and very well known. He worked for, I can't remember, Dubashi and Sons. And he was transferred in 1958 to Khulna to run their office in Khulna, because they had an office in Khulna. So my father ran that office in Khulna. So of course all of us moved there. It was only me and my second brother. My second brother was also born in Chittagong, but that's after my mother got pregnant. She came to Chittagong. My second brother, after me, was born in Chittagong, and we lived in Khulna right up to 1968. And
That
I
means
studied.
before the Liberation War, you mean?
Yes, yeah. So in 1968, my father got retransferred back to Chittagong. So during the time we were in Khulna, we were studying in a Catholic school there that was run by Catholic missionaries.
So talking about Catholic missionary and your schooling in Catholic school, did you practice Judaism, or you are not, openly a Jewish individual?
My father used to, teach us about me and my brother who was after me, teach us about Judaism, and all the various customs and festivals, but we were unable to practice because there were no synagogues in then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. So my father just told my mother, the kids can go to church, and his idea was it's all the same God, regardless. So we kind of grew up understanding Catholicism as well as Judaism. Judaism, of course, from my father's side.
You were growing up in a place where most people, everybody spoke Bangla, and in Chittagong they have Chittaganian dialect. So were you fluent in the languages like Chittagonian dialect, Chatgaya language, or Bengali language?
I was okay in Bangla. I was okay with Chittagonian. However, my father could barely speak Bangla.
Which languages you were proficient in?
Well, English. We would speak English at home.
Which other languages your father spoke?
My father spoke Arabic, Hebrew. He knew from his school days, because he was back in the old school days, they used to teach them Latin. So he knew that. Of course, he knew Hindi. He was very, very fluent in Hindi. And of course, if you know Hindi, you know Urdu. So
your schooling, sorry to interrupt, your schooling, I can say elementary part, were part you probably were done in Khulna, but you also studied in schools like high schools and college and university in Chittagong or Chattogram. Can you
yes,
briefly describe
yeah,
those days, your college days or university days, how you spent?
In school, I studied in St. Placid School. When we returned to Chittagong from Khulna, I was admitted to class 6.
Mm-hmm.
And going a few steps back, a few years back, I should say, I excelled in my class. I had 2 double promotions, which means I skipped a class because evidently the teachers thought, or the school thought I was too smart for the class. On my third double promotion, my father went to the school and told the principal, don't give him that double promotion. I need him to go in a gradual process. That's why in 1968, you can calculate, I shouldn't have been in class 6. I should have been maybe in class 5 or 4, but I skipped. So I finished my high school from St. Placid School, went to college, went
Which
to
college was
university.
it?
The college that I went, I'm sure you know, Haji Motion College
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Chittagong. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's where I started my college and then university after that. Then I went in to, of course, the Chittagong Polytechnic Institute. They were offering, it's basically a technical. That's where I did my, civil building and architectural science and design.
Which year it was?
Oh boy, it would be 1983.
Okay. Now you were in '68. You were, I think, in your adolescent years, and '71 came. The 9-month long war of liberation, atrocities by Pakistani army. You had some horrific experience. Can you go back to that memory lane of 1971? What happened to your
Yeah,
family, or you have experienced horrific situation?
well, it was horrific. It happened so suddenly. But my father, my mother's sister, my uncles, and all decided that they would stay in the house and not leave. In the entire area that we lived in, everyone left.
Which area
I
it
think
was?
that was Dampara, high level
Dampara.
road, Dampara.
Dampara. Okay, yeah, high
Yeah,
level road. Yeah.
everyone left, and we decided, even my father said, no, we are not leaving, we are staying. So we stayed. We stayed right through the shooting, because we were just at the foothill of the Chittagong police lines, which was a big police academy and a you know um, a police camp. It was on a hilltop. So we lived. Our house was right at the foot of that hill. So there were a lot of direct fire. So we stayed almost 2-3 nights, like hunkered down below the window level. Um, and when the police lines were taken over, the soldiers started coming down, looking for people, and
You
whoever they
mean the
found,
Pakistani? You mean the West Pakistani soldiers that
yes,
time? Okay, okay.
and
Hmm.
they started randomly killing
Uh,
people.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Joseph. Your sound is getting little diminished. Your sound volume.
Now, can you hear
Yeah, it's
me?
better. Yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So what happened was they came down, they went right through the neighborhoods, and whoever they found, they questioned them, they shot them. We had bodies lying near our house. Then they came to our place, our house, and my father stepped out and he spoke to them in Urdu. And of course, by seeing my father's, my father was tall and he didn't look like a Bengali or a Bangladeshi. He looked more Arab. So he spoke to them in Urdu, and he just said, I have my family here, everything is okay. So that they told him that if you need any help, you can always come up. I think I can remember it was the captain, and he said you can come, and he gave his name to my dad. He's saying you can come up to the police lines, and if you need any help, you can come and ask for the help. But I've seen like it's too graphic to even mention it on this show. But you can only imagine um, the killings that I witnessed at the age of 15.
What was your personal experience? You can tell us with shivering.
My personal experience, at that time I was so young. At 15, you don't think, you think it's a war. So that's how we took it, that it's a war. But then years later, looking back, and then having the opportunity of reading the accounts written by historians of what happened, and I recall what me and my family witnessed, then it hit home like it was horrific. But at that time, being young, you don't really, because we were so naive when we were growing up. We didn't think anything about it.
But
It happened and it was forgotten.
Your personal experience with the marauding army is noteworthy. When you are almost being killed, you have told us several times.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us?
Yeah. By the way, Jamal, I can't hear you. It's very low, your volume.
Oh my goodness. Can you hear better now?
A bit.
Okay, I have no idea. Okay, this is very strange. This is the first time it's okay. Is it better now?
A bit better, yeah. So
okay.
Yes,
I'm trying to recall that story you have narrated. The time you are face to face with death. That
yes,
particular incident.
yeah. We were going to a friend's place in Ashkardigi,
Ashkardigi
because
is
we
a
had
lake.
one of our servants, his wife was pregnant at that time, so we got her to a safer place. And so I'll elaborate on this a little more. My mother, my aunt, and myself, we were walking when we got grabbed. And at that point, we were separated, and I was pushed up against the wall. And the soldier, was asking, and we said, we're Christians. And I pulled out the Catholic rosary and I showed him. He said that many people have that. And he had his weapon pointed at me. And his comrade, who was sitting and stirring a pot of tea in a gas stove, he asked his comrade in Urdu, Kya karunga? And his comrade didn't even look up to see who it was. And he says, Goli chalao. So at that moment, the officer and some of his men had come earlier that morning to our house. They wanted some coconuts. and we got one of our servants to climb up the coconut tree and give him some coconut. He walked in and he asked, "What are you doing here?" We said, "Ask him." Then he told us to go home because it wasn't safe, and we could hear him kind of telling the soldiers that how he had come over to our house earlier that day and we had given him coconuts. That was the closest call I ever came. But there were other instances when I was walking and another Bengali guy was walking beside me. I didn't know this guy, and a shot rang out and struck him, and he died right there in front of me.
Brutal
So,
incidents, brutal. I mean, brutality has no bounds. I mean, by the Pakistani army. And
Jamal, I can't hear you. You're very low.
Something is happening with the, I don't know, maybe the technical side. Can you hear me now? A little bit better?
I can hear you now a bit.
Okay. I'm not touching anything, microphone or anything. But as you are hearing, I'm continuing. You are have a illustrious family background. Like one of your uncles was he basically actively participated in the liberation war from the Indian side. Can you go back to that?
I actually didn't know much about him until I
Who
came to
is he?
Canada.
Who is he? Tell me about him.
General Jack Farge Raphael Jacob.
Okay.
He was a general during the Liberation War. He was in the eastern sector, and General Jagjit Singh Arora was on the western sector, means facing West Pakistan. So it was General Jacob who tricked General Niazi to surrender.
Very interesting. I heard that because Jacob told Niazi that your Indian army have surrendered Dhaka, whereas it was not so. Maybe there are few hundred Indian army, but not thousands of Indian army, something like that. Am I right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. The Indian army didn't have many soldiers in and around Dhaka, but he made Niazi believe that they were surrounded and there was no chance of escape, that if worse came to us, they would all be wiped out. But he gave Niazi an assurance that if you surrender, we will make sure that your men will be protected. At first, what I know is Niazi was hesitant, but at the end he gave in because he had no choice.
Why General Jacob was not co-signer of the surrender, a treaty that with Niazi? Why he was not sitting side by side with Niazi? Why?
He decided Niazi didn't want to sign the declaration of surrender to General Jacob because then it would look like the Muslim surrendered to a Jew. So Indira Gandhi had Jagjit Singh Arora, as you can see in that picture that you've just posted.
Yeah.
Jagjit Singh Arora signed it, but you can see General Jacob just behind Niazi
Yes, on the right side, I can see.
Watching over
Yeah.
with a smirk on his head, on his face.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Very interesting. And he is your father's first cousin, as far as I know.
Yes. Yeah, he's related to my father.
Oh, great. And you know that later on, he got award by the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh. And we already,
Yes.
this picture is a historical picture. You can see, Gerald Jacob on the right and Sheikh Hasina on the left. It's a very historical picture. So you have a very illustrious, as I said, family background. And Joseph, you also know another Jewish family which I was aware of. It was the family was living in Rajshahi, Didanish, Pakistan, and I remember Mordecai Cohen. Mordecai Cohen was a couple of years senior than me in Rajshahi Collegiate School in the 1960s. I remember Mordecai Cohen used to take part in plays, in a school dramas, and but Joseph, here is the picture, Mordecai Cohen with his wife. Unfortunately, Mordecai Cohen is no more. He passed away in Kolkata. But going back to 1960s, he was a famous, a personality not only in Rajshahi but also in Dhaka later on. In 63, 64, he was an anchorman with Pakistan Television, DIT building. And also he was a regular announcer at Radio Pakistan Dhaka. And I understand that Mr. Barook, you also know the family. I mean, how you came across with the Mordecai family?
I heard about Mordecai Cohen because the Jews in then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, were very, very few. Very few. There were two. There was Mordecai Cohen from Rajshahi, and then in Chittagong there was one family, Enoch Daniel. I studied, and I know all the kids, like they're the same age as me. They're now living in the UK. Enoch Daniel's brother, Zebulon Daniel, lived in Dhaka, and he had one son and one daughter, and they currently live here in Toronto. My father knew them very well. They were very close friends. I keep in touch with all of them, even Enoch's children who are in the UK. Then there was another family in Dhaka. The last name was Jacobs, and they had a daughter named Priscilla Jacob. Priscilla. She married a Catholic named Alfred DeCosta. He passed away. She started her own school in Dhaka, which is currently still operating in Dhaka. She passed away a few years ago, but she has a brother, a younger brother, by the name of Henry Jacob. He still lives in Dhaka. So you can see that there were very, very few Jews, and from the time of East Pakistan to Bangladesh, they kept a very, very low profile. Now, the last name Jacobs, the last name of Daniels could pass off as a Christian name, but Baruch could never pass off as a Christian name.
I agree with you.
It's purely Hebrew.
I agree with you. But those days, you were saying about your situation. that in Chittagong in the 60s or even 70s, it was not very easy to, come across. It's not easy to, introduce yourself as Jewish people or Jewish family. But in Rajshahi in the early 60s, the Cohen family was a prominent Jewish family. And I think those days, nobody bothered about their Jewishness. My father was a good friend of Mordecai Cohen's father, and they had a cycle repair shop in which part in part of Rajshahi city. I remember we used to go to their house, and those days anti-Semitism was not a regular mantra in Didan East Pakistan. I would argue that people of East Pakistan or Bengalis of Pakistan in the 60s or early 70s were far more secular than nowadays. Nowadays, the country has unfortunately gone down the drain. The Bangladesh, you know, and I know it very well. Anyway, this is the unfortunate saga of a nation which was born, against Islamic zealots of West Pakistan. You know, and Bangladesh should have been a liberal democratic country. Unfortunately, at the moment, it is more and more Islamized slash jihadized. So, talking about jihadi movement in the global theater, Mr. Baruch, you had been to Afghanistan. You were deployed. Can you sum up a little bit, exactly what you did in Afghanistan, and as a Canadian, of course, as a Canadian citizen? What you have been during your deployment in Afghanistan? What was your main duty? Can you hear me?
Um, there are a lot of things I cannot mention on here.
Whatever you can say, like your experience in Kabul, Kandahar, dealing with the Talibans, if you want to say anything.
Well, we basically stayed in camps. In Kandahar, the NATO forces base where all the militaries from various nations were based was in Kandahar International Airport. So that's where I stayed for about 3 months before the UN had called me back to Kabul. In Kabul, before that, when I went in 2004, we were based in Camp Julian, which was in Kabul. And yeah, I was there for a year, a little over a year. And then instead of coming home, I joined the United Nations as the head of engineering on vertical structures, which means designing buildings, reconstructing the buildings that were damaged during the last 20 years of war with the Russians and what have you. So yeah, and subsequently I joined after that the United Nations World Food Program. So I was there again, basically engaging with local contractors for securing buildings that were being rented by the UN for UN staff. So my job was basically to make sure that everything was secured.
Good.
And I finished my. They wanted to send me to at the end. They wanted to send me to Pakistan, and I refused. And they wanted to know why. And I basically said, I don't like Pakistanis because of what they did in 1971. And I came home. I was barely 3 months then I was sent to Somalia. I was there for about 6 months and then came home, and my daughter made me promise her that I wouldn't go out anymore because she was afraid that my luck would run out. And so I stayed back, and here I am.
Mr. Barook, as we're talking, one viewer named Shahabuddin Muhammad had pointed out something, and it came on the screen. He was arguing that General Aurora was a 3-star general, and Major General Jacob was a 2-star Major General. So it is quite logical that General Aurora would be the signatory. His argument was. But you said already that General Aurora was assigned in the Western Front, and General Jacob was in the Eastern Front. Can you just defend your argument, or it was originally he was supposed to sign the agreement, the peace, whatever surrender agreement? I mean, Major General Jacob, or it was originally meant for Aurora. Can you explain that again? Shahabuddin Muhammad, he wrote, "I do not agree with the comment because Lieutenant General Aurora, a 3-star general, was the chief of the Indian Eastern Command, and Major General Jacob, a 2-star general, was the chief of staff under Aurora." Can you explain now? Or can you refute the argument of Shahabuddin Muhammad, or is he saying the right thing in this case?
What, if you look deep into the story, it was if the general or officer of the defeated army surrenders to the officer of the victorious army, then he signs the declaration with that officer because he surrendered to that officer. That's how it goes. He didn't surrender to Aurora. He surrendered to Jacob. But the reason why he refused to sign, and I think if you go online, you'll be able to check. There might be a story there. He refused to sign because it would look like that a Muslim army surrendered to a Jew. And as you know, back in history, Pakistanis don't like the Jewish people. So it would be it would be like a slap on, they would think that it's a slap on their face. So then they had no choice, but Indira Gandhi said, let Aurora go and sign it because Aurora is not Jewish. So that's how he signed. But if you look at that picture very closely, General Jacob has a smirk on his face.
Yes, right. I noticed that.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's a meaning to that. The meaning is you still, no matter what, you still surrender to me, not to Aurora.
And we know the history.
That's the way I look at it.
And exactly, and 93,000 Pakistani soldiers surrendered to the Indian army, a predominantly Hindu army, and it was also embarrassing for them, and they would never forget. That's why they probably want to take the revenge now, trying to make Bangladesh into another East Pakistan. You know the current situation happening in Bangladesh. I think you are following also. And Mr. Barook, you and I all wish your motherland and my motherland is the same. Bangladesh.
It's the same.
We are the native sons of the soil. We are now, I'm an American, you are Canadian, but we have still love and empathy for the people of the country that we left. So we are hoping for a modern, democratic, liberal Bangladesh soon. And we hope the bad days will go away. We hope. And that's my last thought. You have any comment? on current situation in Bangladesh before we end up today's discussion?
Now, being like you said, being born in Bangladesh, Bangladesh is our birth country. We cannot deny that. And all we want, at least I'm speaking for myself, all I want is the best for that country, to be progressive, but not the way not the path that it's taking right now, because that is destructive and that is affecting a lot of people. I hope, looking forward, something good will come out and there may be a change. Might be wishful thinking, but it's better to have a wishful thinking than, thinking otherwise. We still have our connection to Bangladesh because we were born there. We cannot deny that. So that's how I will leave my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Barook, Joseph Edward Barook. It was nice talking to you. We'll meet again.
Thank you.
And shalom.
Thank you, Jamal.
And shalom and
pleasure.
goodbye. Thank you very much.